So, check this out, people. Today, I want to talk about something that a lot of Americans are not going to like, right? Not just Americans, but a lot of people in general are not going to like it because we are living in a time where most Americans, right? And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the American people, us, right? Because I live in the Philippines and I've seen what poverty is and I've seen what homelessness is, true homelessness, what it means to be a single mother, right? What it means to be an irresponsible father from the things that I've seen here. And so I've seen a lot of things, not just in this country, but back home in the US. But there's a big difference between the US and the Philippines, right? The difference is that the people here are very poor and that there are only two classes, those who got it and those who don't, right? And so back home in the US, you have this class of men, right? I'm going to talk about men. I'm not going to talk about women today because this subject is about men who are just a bunch of pussies, right? A lot of these men are pussies because all they do is complain, all they do is bitch about racism, about inequality, all this bullshit, right? That's going on back home in the US. And these same people who are constantly talking about racism live better than most people, if not better than most white people, because everyone in America, whether you're black, whether you're brown, whether you're Chinese, whether you're Asian, it doesn't matter, right? You have those who got it and those who don't, right? But the problem back home is that you have the blacks, right, who make up 13% of America, right? That means we've got some 87% whites and 13% blacks. But for some reason, the blacks, who make up only 13% of America, think that every white person has to cater to the 13%, which doesn't make any sense, right? Because you have this bullshit going on back home where you have black people asking white people, do you have a black friend? Do you have any black friends? As if though there are enough black people to go around for white people to befriend them, right? And if you don't have a black friend in America and you're white, then you're racist. If you don't hire a black person in America, then you're racist, as if though there were enough black people for every white person back home in the US. So how is it that 13% of blacks can expect 87% of whites to each have a black friend, as if though the white man, right, can determine a black person's worth, right? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Every time a black person is constantly bitching and complaining about white people not having black friends, white people not hiring them, there aren't enough black people to go around for every white man. And I know that a lot of black people believe that every single white person in America owned the slaves, owned the slave. We know that's not true. We know that's not true because there aren't enough blacks in America for every white person. And the only people who owned slaves back home in America were those who could afford it, including blacks who owned slaves themselves. And the problem with Black Americans is that in this day and age, they seem to come off as the weakest of all of the nations that are living in America. The Chinese or the Asian, I'm going to just say Asian, right? The Hispanics, with the Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominican, the whites. The only people you see bitching and complaining about racism is always the blacks. And I'm going to go right right out and say it. It's not racism when it's true. It's not racism when the majority of the crime that is being committed back home in the US is by a very small percentage of people, blacks. It doesn't matter if these people get into government. And don't get me wrong, I know there's corruption everywhere in government, including white people who commit crime in government. We know this, right? Corruption. But it always seems to me that every time a black person gets into the government, has the opportunity to prove themselves that they're better than the people they criticize and that they're there to do a job, not just for themselves, but their own people, they fuck it up. They fuck it up. Just watch the news. Letitia James, who went after Donald Trump with her bullshit. And then now we find out that she used her father so that she could get breaks, tax breaks, or some real estate breaks by claiming that her father was her husband. After she went after Trump for some bullshit, now she's doing the exact same bullshit and nonsense that she was accusing Donald Trump of. And it's not just her. It just seems like every black person that has the opportunity to change things, not for them, not just for themselves, but for their people, they always gotta fuck it up by doing something stupid. If you don't believe me, just turn on the news and type black people in government or whatever, right? And you're gonna see that 8 out of 10 blacks who get into government always fuck it up. They either get arrested, they either get impeached, they either get fired, they either get recalled, there's always something, right? And yet they're always blaming everybody else for their downfall. And every time they get busted, it's racism. It's racism. It's racism when you can't even go to McDonald's in New York, somewhere in Brooklyn, because every fucking black young man is going into a McDonald's and creating chaos because they don't respect nobody. And if you don't believe me, just type in, you have to be 21 and over to enter this McDonald's in Brooklyn. And you're going to see how McDonald's has made changes. That McDonald's specifically, not allowing the youth under 21 to enter into the McDonald's. And don't tell me it's the white boys who are fucking it up, or the Mexicans, or the Puerto Ricans. Watch the news, watch the TV, watch the internet, and you're going to see that the majority of the times, 9 out of 10 times, it's the black youth who fuck it up because they feel entitled. They feel like they have the right to protest, not by using their words, but by using their fists, by disrespecting everybody and anybody, whether it's an elder, male or female. They don't care. They don't give a fuck. And they're the first ones to bitch and complain. Then you got the Dominicans who are black, more black than the native blacks from the US. And they come to the US. They own restaurants, they own laundromats, they own cab companies, they own buildings, they own businesses, and they never cry racism. They never say it's because I'm black, because they are black, by the way. They just speak Spanish. Why is it that the Dominicans prosper? Why is it that the Mexicans prosper, the Puerto Ricans, the Chinese? But the native blacks, not only the Chinese, the Puerto Ricans, the Dominicans, the Haitians, and every other black nation that comes to the US, but the Africans who come to America thrive and prosper. But the only ones bitching and complaining about racism and about life being so hard are the native blacks who were born there, who were raised there, who put in the time, always bitching and complaining because they want free food, free money, free cash, free debit. They don't want to get off their ass and do what the Mexicans are doing, what the Dominicans are doing, what the Puerto Ricans are doing, what the Haitians are doing, what the Africans who are coming to America today are doing. That's the generation of blacks that we're raising today, a bunch of pussies. Men who don't take care of their wives, who don't take care of their children. All they do is bitch and complain. They don't want to hold a job that pays them $20 or more. Shit, you give me a job that pays me $15 or more, that's $700 a week. I can survive off 700 a week. I don't understand this whole bullshit that people are talking about when Mexicans come to the US and they survive on 400 or 500 a week. You know why? Because they're not buying Bentleys. They're not putting rims on their car. They're not putting new grills on their car. Driving a fancy fucking Lamborghini and parking it in front of the projects. Because this guy, usually a black guy, let's just keep it real, people. My channel's called Uncensored for a reason. I'm going to say the things that most people want to say but are afraid to say it. And the fact is that you got these lowlifes, right, who got no common sense, who rather than putting their money where their mouth is and fixing their broken, fucked up teeth, they would rather put a grill on their new car. They would rather park a Lamborghini outside the projects rather than getting a house in the suburbs and taking the bus to their home every day. That's their priority. And this is why the majority of blacks ain't got shit. I'm just keeping it real. I can say this because I know. I'm from the Bronx. I grew up on 139th Street between Brook and Willis. It was the Puerto Ricans on 139, the blacks on 140, and the gangs, the Chingalings and all the other gangs on 138th Street. We couldn't go to 138 or 140. The gangs couldn't come to 139. The blacks couldn't come to 139, and vice versa, right? And I've seen poverty in the US, but one thing I never heard when I was growing up from the blacks was racism. Never did I hear that word racism until I became a grown man in my mid-30s when I started hearing this new generation of bitches and pussies talking about racism. I can't get a job because of racism. In the meantime, the place where he can't get a job, they got a Haitian working there. In the meantime, they got a Dominican working there, a Mexican, a Puerto Rican, but for some reason, these people are racist towards blacks. Which blacks are they racist towards? Which ones? The light-skinned blacks that live in America or the dark-skinned blacks like the Dominicans who come to America and thrive? The Indians who own 7-Elevens and every convenience store in America. How many black-owned businesses do you see? Do you think that black-owned businesses don't exist because the government won't allow the blacks to own a business, or because the blacks don't move enough to put into the system or put in an effort to own their own business? Because other blacks do it, Haitians do it, Dominicans do it. You see Mexican restaurants all over. You see Jamaican restaurants, Haitian restaurants. Hell, I've been to an Ethiopian restaurant in New Haven, Connecticut. You're not going to tell me that America's racist. You're not going to tell me that. It's ridiculous. We live in a country where everyone who goes there thrives except for the pussies who were born and raised there, who want it for free. They don't want a job. And if they do, they want to put their money on bullshit. This is why they complain about racism. This is why they're always calling racism while they're going home to their $700 PS5, their 50-inch screen television. They don't pay child support. They don't support their kids. They don't support their wives, but they got a PS5. They got a Lamborghini parked outside of the projects, Mott Haven and Patterson projects in the Bronx. Does that make sense? Racism? Inequality? Hell, when I was 16, I was making more money than most people who went to college. I worked with white people, with Jewish people, blacks from South America. All of us worked together in one lab. Every one of us was from a different country. Every one of us. Jamaican, Haitian. And we were all hired by the white guy who just happened to be Jewish. So I don't understand this whole racist bullshit that this generation is constantly whining about in this day and age. You know, black people, I'm going to tell you something. There was a time back in the 50s and the 40s when blacks kept their families together, when the husband was with his wife, when he worked, when he took care of the wife. It didn't matter if he had to take 2 jobs or 3 jobs to support his family. Today, this pussy generation of blacks won't even hold 1 job, not 1 job to take care of their family. And they blame everyone else. They blame society. They blame the government. They blame racism. They don't blame themselves, right? They don't blame themselves. They're always blaming somebody. Anyone out there who's watching this video, tell me when, where, why, and how, if you're black, you were discriminated against in America. And so you got these same people who commit crimes, who get out on bail, low bail, who get the opportunities to have a lawyer, a public defendant, who don't do the maximum amount of time when they commit crimes, and yet everything is racist. And yet, you guys, and no offense, guys, black people, you don't want to hear this. But when I was growing up, it wasn't like this. There were no black bitches and pussies complaining about why they don't got what the white man got. I got what the white man got and more. I know blacks who got what the white man got and more, who own their own home, who drive fancy cars, who have their wives and their children, and who live better than most white people I know. Because I know white people. I live amongst them. They live amongst me just like you live amongst them and they live amongst you. The difference is that when you see them, they're responsible. They take the train to work every day. And you hop the train to get to where you're going every day. And that's the difference. And so I wanted to talk about this because I left America because America has been going downhill since the Democratic Party took over. And thank God that Donald Trump is in office today and is turning young boys into men and pussies into men, and is hopefully making not just the white part of the country or the Hispanic part, but the black part of the country also, to understand that it's time to be a man, fellas. It's time to stop bitching and complaining and blaming everybody for your downfalls, for your laziness, for your drug addiction, for your criminality, if that's a word. And start being a man. Get a job. Fuck it, work at McDonald's. McDonald's pays $700 a week. If you can't make $700 a week and survive in the US, there's a problem. Because there's food stamps, there's Section 8, there's HUD, there's Medicaid, there's Husky. They have all of these benefits to cover the parts that are missing in your life, the financial parts that you need to get by, other than your paycheck every week. And this is something I could never understand. The problem is that the blacks don't support each other. They would rather buy from the white man that they call racist, right? They would rather buy the Adidas, the Nikes, the fancy cars, the fancy phones, the fancy sneakers, the fancy clothes from a white man. But if a black man opens a grocery store, they won't shop at the black man's store. They always want to break a discount. Hey, brother, hook me up. They don't support each other. You guys don't support each other. And then you bitch and complain and you blame everybody. So people, this is uncensored. If you can't handle the things I'm saying, I apologize to nobody. This channel is to wake you up, to make you realize that if you don't move on from this bullshit and this nonsense, your children are going to fall into the same trap that you're falling into. Because I have daughters, I don't have any boys, and trust me, if I did, they'd be men. Men. My daughters are more men than most men out here today. My daughters work, my daughters own their own businesses, they have their husbands, they have their families. And as females, they don't bitch and complain about how hard it is to live or to make it. The problem is that women today are more men than these bitches, these man bitches, right? Who depend on their wives, depend on their girlfriends to carry half the weight. If not half the weight, most of the weight. Because if women can do it, if women can go to work every day and be single mothers and pay the bills and pay the rent, why the fuck can't you do it? Why can't you do it? or because the white man got you down. You got to grab yourself by the balls and be a man, people. This is uncensored. If you don't like what I'm saying, it's probably because you're one of those men who has a vagina between your thighs. It's time to grow up, guys. Be an example to your children. Be an example to your men, to your boys, and to your daughters, and show them that it takes a real man to get up from his behind and make it work. You live in America, not in the Philippines, not in China, not in Japan, not in communist China, where people are constantly struggling. You live in the greatest country in the world, and if you can't make it there, you ain't gonna make it nowhere.
Born in the dust where the echoes shout, where the streets tell tales you can't leave out. Hands rough from the grind, no room to break in this world we make or get left in the wake. Tanko native, uncensored, no disguise, calling out the truth, cutting through the lies. From the shadows, hot words light the spark, painting the chaos, a masterpiece in the dark. It's in the dark. Every brick whispers stories that hold, of dreams forged in fire, dreams turned to gold. Eyes sharp like a blade cutting through the low. They can lock me down, but I'll always glow. Tanko native, uncensored, no disguise, calling out the truth, cutting through the lies. From the shadows, hot words light the spark, painting the chaos, a masterpiece in the dark. In the dark. We're the thunder in the storm, breaking the calm, the fire in the cold, the pulse in your palm. No filters, no chains, raw to the core. Tanko native, erupting what you can't ignore. Tanko native, uncensored, no disguise, calling out the truth, cutting through the lies. From the shadows, hot words light the spark, painting the chaos, a masterpiece in the dark.